So starting in the 1950s, the use of animal fat in home cooking has really been on a sharp decline. But I have certainly noticed, and I'm sure a lot of you have too, that the trend is reversing. More people are using animal fat, they're talking about it. And for someone who has personally been using more and more animal fat in my daily home cooking over the last few years, I find this trend reversal very interesting. So I wanted to take a deeper dive into the culinary world of fats to really see why this movement is taking place. And we're gonna start with the reason humans consume fat in the first place. Fat is one of the most dense caloric things that you can consume. It provides us with energy, it helps with the absorption of vitamins and minerals, it helps with muscle movement, and it helps to build new cells in the body. And from a culinary standpoint, it certainly makes food and cooking a lot more exciting. Could you imagine cooking without the use of fat and how boring your food would be? Fat gives us that ability to sear and fry our food, which leads to amazing textures, crispiness and crunch, while giving us a huge flavor boost from that delicious Maillard reaction that we love. From searing a steak, to roasting veggies, to frying a piece of chicken, all with the help of fat. Fat is also an incredible carrier of aromatic compounds, which makes our food taste more intense. Think about the difference between just boiling some garlic in water and making a simple garlic stock versus infusing garlic in oil to make a garlic oil. Which one of these two things has a more potent flavor? You probably guessed right. Now there is a ton of confusion about which fat is the best to consume. And I think the best way to start to break this down is to understand the three main types of fats that humans do consume. Number one are your monounsaturated fats, which include things like olive oil, canola oil, avocado oil, different types of nut oils. These fats generally get considered healthy fats, at least in their very unprocessed form. So think about an olive coming off a tree, getting mashed up and squeezed out for that beautiful golden oil, which makes up a huge part of the Mediterranean diet, which of course is considered a very healthy diet. Then you have polyunsaturated fats, which include different fish oils, soybean oil, corn oil, and a lot of those seed oils that are today starting to become more demonized. Now these specific fats include both omega-3s and omega-6s, which are good for you as humans. So if you're eating a ton of fish oil, you're probably getting both of those in balance, and that would be good for you. But a lot of these oils are highly processed, and what you end up with are oils and fats that are much higher in omega-6, which can lead to inflammation. And as more and more people learn about the downsides of highly processed unsaturated fats, I think what's happening is they're starting to drop them, and to replace them comes our last fat, which are saturated fats. So these are natural fats that are solid at room temperature. So think about butter or coconut oil, and of course animal fats, lard, tallow, schmaltz. There's a ton of different terminology depending on the type of animal and the processing of that fat. Now obviously humans have been surviving off these types of fats forever. If you kill an animal, you're obviously not going to waste all of those precious calories that also simultaneously make an amazing cooking substance. But starting in the 1950s in the US, there were a few popular studies that came out linking these saturated fats to higher cholesterol, which then could lead to heart disease. These studies, along with a government pushing a food pyramid very high in carbohydrates and low in fat, and of course all of the food companies pushing these low fat options, basically led to a food culture where fat was considered a bad thing. And in my opinion, I think with a lack of education on these different types of fat, if you're just looking at an animal fat versus say a liquid fat like this, you're gonna probably think this one is more healthy. The US food culture really started to vilify these types of animal fats and saturated fats, which also led to the explosion of a fourth fat, which are trans fats, which are found naturally in some foods, but they are also made by turning liquid fats into solid fats with the addition of hydrogen. So these are your Criscos and your margarines and shortening, these highly processed fats that I certainly grew up on throughout my entire childhood. I never really liked the taste, but I always had a thing of margarine in the fridge. These fats were huge for many years, but they're definitely on the outs as people now understand that they have very little to no health benefits. So we're just gonna remove these trans fats from the equation. All right, so now the question is, what is the best fat for you? And the truth is, there is no best fat. One of the biggest problems I think with American food culture is that everything becomes very black and white. So a great example of this is something that might start start with the right idea of just adding more protein into your diet turns quickly into the carnivore diet and people are just eating ribeyes all day long. And the same thing happens in the world of fats. Certain things are gonna be pushed in your face as just the almighty, most healthy, perfect fat ever, when the truth is all of these fats have certain health benefits. They also can have negative effects. So when I'm personally navigating this world and figuring out what I wanna use, I think about three specific things. Number one is staying away from those really highly processed fats, focusing on ones that are minimally processed. Number two is trying to find high quality versions of these fats. And number three is focusing on balance. You don't just have to pick one and go with that. You can use a balance of these fats in your cooking and your diet. Which brings me to the sponsor of this video. Even though this video has a focus on animal fats, and they do make up a big part of my diet, they are not the only type of fat I consume. My mono unsaturated fat of choice is definitely olive oil, and the olive oil that I've pretty much exclusively used over the last probably 3 years of my life is Graza. So I started using Graza olive oil really when it first hit the market. I saw it on the shelves and that squeeze bottle just sold me right away. But what kept me around years later is the quality of the actual olive oil. All of their olive oil comes from high-end Spain, which is where half of the world's olive oil is produced. And all of their bottles have the date that they were actually bottled right on the package, so you know exactly how fresh it is. And I personally love how simple they make olive oil. You've got two options. You have the sizzle, which is made from mature in-season olives for all of your cooking needs. And you've got the drizzle, made from olives picked a little earlier, loaded with antioxidants and a much bolder flavor. This you would use for raw things like a dressing or just drizzling it on some bread. And finally, I love the fact that they now sell the refill cans, which I pick up from my local Whole Foods, so I never need to buy new bottles. So if you're interested in Graza olive oil, click the link below in my description and use code word LifebyMikeG for 10% off your order. All right, so it's pretty obvious at this point that a high quality olive oil like this, incorporated into your diet in a balanced way, is a healthy fat option. But why are so many people scared of animal fats? And it turns out that a lot of the studies that were coming out in the 50s and 60s, they were cherry picking a lot of the data, which really led an entire culture to be brainwashed into thinking that this stuff is bad, which is pretty wild considering humans have been consuming it since the beginning of their existence on Earth. And without getting into too much of a conspiracy rabbit hole, it is a fact that Procter & Gamble, who is the creator of Crisco, they donated millions of dollars to the American Heart Association right around the time that all of these studies were coming out, which was recommending to limit these types of fats. And I am certainly not a health expert. If you look online, you can see tons of health benefits of consuming animal fats. But honestly, when I look at a list like this, it does pretty much nothing for me. I don't really approach health in that way. How I generally approach diet is first thinking about human evolution and then just a lot of trial and error. So years ago, as I learned there is a place for this in my diet, I simply just started using more of it in my cooking. And personally, as I incorporated more and more of them into my diet, I felt great. Didn't feel like it was weighing me down. It only seemed to improve my overall diet. But honestly, the health benefits of these fats are just a piece of the picture. What really excites me the most about them is from a culinary perspective. They are extremely stable fats. They have super high smoke points, so you can really crank up the temperature without any burning happening. And because they function so well under high heat, you can actually get a much better sear on your food when you're using these types of fats. They also can, of course, provide great additional flavor depending on the type of fat you're using. Like a little bit of this smoked pork fat completely changes the flavor of a dish. Sometimes you don't want that, but a lot of times that can be a huge benefit. And finally, animal fats can be very cheap. I'm gonna show you how to make them from scratch. Sometimes they're just built already into the food you're cooking without the use of any additional fat or oil. So if you want to incorporate more of these animal fats in your diet, you've got a few options. Number one is most supermarkets do sell them now, either shelf stable or in the refrigerator section. My favorite way to buy them already prepared is to go to a local butcher. Now, when it comes to the homemade options, if you don't want to actually make, say, a jar of your own, you can just go with the passive method. And what I mean by passive is something like bacon or pancetta, where the fat is already built into the product. All you have to do is render it down, you get the crispy bits, you remove them, and boom, you have rendered animal fat ready to go. I use this method all of the time to make soups and stews and egg dishes. I love the cost savings, the built-in flavor, and just the ease of this process. And the same thing, of course, will work with other meats that have a good bit of fat on them. You've seen me do this all the time with chicken thighs. They've got a ton of fat, so I render out that skin, you get the crispiness of that skin, and then this residual chicken fat, which I'll fry up the rest of the dish in. If I'm making a roasted chicken stock, I will roast an entire chicken in my air fryer, and it's not much, but you will get some fat at the bottom of the tray. You reserve that, use that for cooking, and then the roasted bones and carcass go to making the stock. Another passive option is if you're slow cooking or braising a piece of meat that is heavy in fat, say it's short ribs. You make that dish and a lot of that fat gets rendered out in the cooking process. And if you let that sit in the fridge overnight, you're gonna see that layer of fat rise to the top. A lot of times you don't need all of that fat in the dish, so I'll scrape off that fat and I'll jar it up and use it as a cooking fat. And my final passive option is when I'm, say, smoking a really fatty piece of meat like a brisket. You can capture all of that rendered fat coming off the brisket, which gets flavored with smoke. So that's how you get delicious, smoky, flavored animal fat that you can use in your cooking as well. So those are my more passive options for incorporating more animal fat into your cooking and your diet. If you want a more dedicated option, like you're just trying to make some lard that you can use at home, what I would suggest is going to your butcher and asking them for some fat scraps. Most butchers I've found won't put fat scraps in the actual display. It's something that you do have to ask for. Maybe it's in like a side freezer or a refrigerator, but just ask. They generally have them and they're generally pretty cheap. And today I'm gonna show you two different preparations that give you slightly different final products. The first one I'll demonstrate with this pork fat right here. I'm just gonna chop it into little pieces to help with even rendering. I'll throw that in a pan, put it on like a medium-low heat, and just slowly render all of those fat chunks, and over time the fat is going to render, everything's going to melt down until you basically just have these tiny little crispy pieces of fat and meat and all of that rendered fat. Then that gets strained off and you pour it into a jar, boom. Now this is a very easy option. I use this most of the time, but one thing to note is that you are cooking that fat down in the pan as it's rendering. So you're getting some additional flavoring from that Maillard reaction from just fat searing away. If you want an even more neutral flavored option, you can cook it down in some water, which I'll demonstrate with this beef fat right here. It starts off the same exact way. I'll cut up the beef fat into small pieces, and then I'll pop them into a slow cooker, and I'll cover the beef fat with water and let this slow cook overnight for 12 hours. And that fat will slowly melt into the water without cooking down in itself, so you're not getting that browning. So all you have to do is strain off any of the extra fat and then pop that into the fridge where the fat is going to solidify and of course separate from the water. So you can just grab that solidified fat, package it up, and this will be a slightly more pure tasting rendered fat. So there you go. Hopefully you've learned a few things about animal fats. If you want to learn how I use them to make actual food, click this video right here.